所谓非农党嘛，甚至非农学过，说明说的啊，跟区别讨论做哪个就是点对啊，这个是一般这些的就会上去需要练，大概的。在月底，那我觉得可以把这些
아니 야 다 제자 다른 도시에 가서래 예 다 다른 도시에 집전화제 송시에 나야다 송주에 나야다 아니 대자마 세베 된 담배 아니 예 대바른진 나야 되는데 송주 나야기 시제 나제 시라게 야부 총소 다른 데 뒤주 시라가 먹고 왜 토네 참마다 참리 쉬야다 아니 예나마니가라 아니 토지체스도 쉬야이 아니 我觉得当然下个音了。
好呀，谢谢。上节知道，早节叫那来，上节把的大内下说节大吉先南节这南边节上节这外说，上节知道，早节叫那来，上节大内下说节大吉只说节别先南这南边节上节这外说，上节知道，早节叫那。上节把的大内下说节大吉只说节别先南。这南边节上节这外说，先节他们节的话大。先节他们节对眼大对眼给节大查瓦姐姐先节他们节对眼。电话大明朝我姐姐先节他们节你的吃多你的中央拉年把节肉一节先节他们节电话大对月节大电报先节他们节对眼大对眼给节大查我姐姐先节他们节对眼电话大明朝我姐姐先节他们节你的吃多你的东亚拉年把节肉一节先节他们节电话大对月节大先节他们节对眼大对眼给节大查我姐姐先节他们节对眼那边电话姐姐先节他们节你的吃多你的这位东亚拉年把节同伴，咱们了，咱这些的类型的学习。
My greetings to all of you at the very outset. Tashidile.
那是叫咱们了，咱这些的类型的学习，真的 nga de le de sidang gi kongsi chin le len rum bo che gi ta nge zu bon che de gi che de kongsi chin le tene kongsi le sa be je le ya ta sha la de chi so no lo la ane roma ko chi xie sha na se ne so tene kong nge gi chin de shi yu sa gi la ma tene kong gi ka se ya du chi che ane de le sa ne me ba la nga ro yi de ke wa zom bo shi da yin chen nga ra mo che no lo ta kar so go de chi ha ji dia zo ro de drama de ngarang ni she na ke wa zom ba shi da re so ne nama so ji shu ya be zi ji bai ne sum ba de nga yi in ji ke shi me ane ke ma shu de be mo sa bi ra de ina 다리 da ya chi ne ke ju 아주 ane ge cha ba ke ju ra shi ne 오늘 제가 나가서 저기 개차법 기지 정도 싫어 시장도 때문에 공개 간직이 통해 때문에 개도 배작한 게 통해 개발시다 당연히 기능이 이제 보시다 공개 가스 침비기 통해 개지 넣어야 돼 개를 넣었을 때는 냥이니 시나 개와 좀 넘버 승인이 시나데 개와 좀 보시다 개준들이 해 요 말에 이제 제가 개기 승진 넣어줘 이게 대가랑 샷
Actually, I'm here on a holiday at the invitation of His Eminence Lelu Rinpoche, and I'm here to actually take a break for my health and to have some break time so as to give an uplift on my health issues and so on. I feel very fortunate to be here at the center of Lelu Rinpoche, and Rinpoche is one of those persons whom I have tremendous respect, and I draw a lot of inspirations from him. And for this matter, when I just spend here only on holiday, my days won't be that much worthwhile that I thought. And then as per our discussion and the request to Rinpoche, we decided that I present something, a lecture or a speak on Tara, Goddess Tara. That's my second point. And then thirdly, unfortunately, I don't speak English. And it is a great embarrassment for me. However, Mr. Sapar Rizin, who is translating here on volunteer basis, has agreed to consented to my request, and I feel it is quite a good opportunity for me and also a good opportunity for those who are attending this lecture as well. Now,
ne tere shuya de ane domi chiko de shuyi domi chiko shudon de tense tambo de domi gi loju tense nipa de domi gi pin is.
Okay, so I am going to talk on the topic Goddess Tara, and the way I have planned to do this, I wanted to do this in two ways. Broadly speaking, number one, the history, origin and history of Tara, Goddess Tara, and then secondly, about the cycle of teachings of Goddess Tara.
Tense tambo de domi loju shedikala ane domi loju sheton de tambo tense nga thone shegi is.
As to the first one, origin and history of Goddess Tara, I'm going to talk by dividing my talk into 5 divisions, 5 things, 5 topics.
Tense tambo de tene domi gi korde zambo bo simba de jiche tense nyeba de shon kawa de kutu ne xiaba de niche tense simba de kyo konde to ba de sumiche tense jeba de giba kari che de xiaba de shiche tense ngaba de ane shon tigita tanda idin rawo chi nga thone shugi is.
So the 5 topics are number 1, the cycle of literature or classic literature that pertains to Tara, Goddess Tara, and how these originated and so on, the legends and so on. And then second one is will be the sources upon which my talk and topic of talk will be referred to. And then third one is the literatures, cycle of literature of the Thara, how they are classified, how they are classified. And then the fourth one is the purpose of this particular topic, and that is on Goddess Tara. And the fifth one is just a summation or the summary of the entire lecture or topic.
ane tense tambo de Roma gi shung de su tambare sena ane temba sanji chondin de tambares ane tense nyaba de chana de khon khali tu khon kawa tu kawa ne tin de shebare sena sanji gi tam shongjo go noro ane tanda peke to chu ju jongjo de ane na to kanji ji zong chen de shena pe ja da je yore di gi noro ane de la tumbu ni shebin do dong ha ni si shebin nga ga noro le ane bod de nga ba
As to the literature concerning Goddess Tara's cycle of teachings and practice and so on, and that will be number one. Number second will be how the sources are being relied upon. As regard the first one, when we consider the entire teachings of Buddha that has been translated into Tibetan language, that goes into what we call this Kanjur and the Tanjur, and that too, what I'm doing is I'm relying on the Narthang edition of these, and in that literature that goes into two subsections. That is, number one, those cycles of texts or literature that belong to Sutriya and Sutra, and the others that belong to that are classified under Tantra, and within this particular teachings related to Tara cycle of teaching goes under the topic of Tantras, and that too Chapa volume, that is the 5th volume in the entire collection of the Narthang redaction.
Tene pegi tenjung gu som jagane kepe zang yongjo peke to ju yongjo ge tenju gu yongjo de na tong ji zong qian na pe ni jia da ni shi za jie yo re tene de ge ji zong qian na pe ni jia yo re di no lo ne ane jide ge kong yo re jide pe dun chi de jie yo re di ge no lo ne jide sha ba jide pe ni shi za din ba tene tenju ge pong ri qian na po de ni shi za jie ba te. So in
the Narthang redaction of Kanjur, there are 108 volumes. I forgot it from the first section. And now with regard to the commentaries on Kanjur, we call it Tenjur, the cycle of Tenjur teachings, Tenjur classics. And Tenjur classics actually constitute of treatises written by the great Indian masters, and that goes into, as per this edition of Narthang, there are altogether 228 volumes. Theke redaction or edition has 200 volumes, and out of these, this comes under the Tantra cycle of teachings or classification. And in Tantra cycle of classification, altogether, there are 78 volumes. Out of 78 volume, it is in the 27th volume, which we call the Shav volume, Shapa volume, that has it. In other words, the 28th volume, so just immediately after that, 28th volume deals entirely with the cycles of teachings and practices concerning Goddess Tara. So in this 8th volume, and the 27th as well, altogether you can say there are 110 texts. Out of 110 texts, half of this is entirely teaching text that deals with the teachings and practice of Goddess Tara, and the rest are somehow related to the main cycles of Tara teachings and practices. So in other words, the entire 108 texts deals with the Tara's Goddess Tara.
Tene ta ngarang ti gang ya tene ta nyu ya zo ji de jono tara nan ta gi ane drome gi phe du ji che ane jancho gendu janso ki drome gi dreba du ni che tene troka lo zo pa de gi drome dreba du sum che ngarang te sa ro tenge ta nyu wa is.
Okay. Now, as to the text that I refer to particularly, and text that I rely on as my sources, my primary source is the one on Tara cycles of teaching and so on by Taranatha, Chunang Taranatha, and then on top of that, the commentaries and treatises written by the first Dalai Lama, Gendu Drup, and then Tragar Losang Palden's commentaries and treatises and so on. Those are the main sources of texts that I rely on in order to give my lecture. Yes.
And Jang continue pa Gendu Janso is.
Oh, second Dalai Lama, Gendun Gyaltso, sorry, yes.
Yeah, and the Jila, that Tiri Kasu Nyara Yeva, Tira Nishipe no Yeva, Kajuki, Bakan Kembo, Kongi, Domain Java Podiji Chibare, the Teru Sene Yashunga, Narang Shivai, Narang Tande Padata, Domain Java, Tik on the Jimare Sambaching, the Shisavataya Kiava Shunsk.
This is second Dalai Lama Gendu Gyaltso. I'm sorry. So in the contemporary period, in the 20th century and so on, there is one huge volume of commentary written by Akaikyu Lama Bogar Khinchen, and he has written a great volume, a grand volume on Tara cycles of teaching and so on. And it was at my earnest request that he did this work, and what I personally feel is, as far as all the entire treatise of Tara is concerned so far, I think there is none as comparable to this particular text written by Bogar Khinchen.
Then that tense about the drama Chikon de Chokon de Toba said this, then Sanji Song Yonzo. Then Taba Chimbo da Taba members and Yawa Nisi Shivi Noro Lishana, Taba Chimbi shows it over. Taba Chimbola, then Japara de Shimbadan, Jivunga Taba Nig and Noro Lishana, and Jivunga TV shows it over. Jivunga Taba Terra Showdown Chena, Shaji, the Shiji, the Nanjoji, Nanjalame, Jiji Shivi Norone, Shaji Consulto Chicochi.
Okay. As to the cycle of teaching, as to the teachings of Buddha, generally speaking, the teachings of Buddha are considered categorized into those cycles of teachings belonging to what we call greater vehicle, Yana, and then the lower vehicle, which is Mahayana and Hinayana vehicle. Out of these, the teaching cycles of Tara, and then these, then the teachings are further divided into Paramittayanas and Mantrayana cycles of teachings. And this particular cycles of teachings and so on related to Goddess Tara belongs to one of the four tantras. Tantrayanas are classified into four, the Kriya, Charya, Yoga, and Anuttara Yoga Tantra. Out of this belongs to the first one, Kriyatharya Tantra.
Then Jabate, Kipa Kongi Ched. Gipa Kangi Ched de la Tene Jetsu Romagi Lande and Nekagri Lishena and Shigin Jipa Jet, Tene Nangi Jipa Jet, Teso Sayada, Tene Nekagi Tomowingi do Teso Taya, Ane Tatula Mishi Shibizambada, Trashe Zubizambegi, Nidu Teso Tayagi Chedres.
Now that was concerning how we classify the teachings of the teaching cycles of Tara. Now, next, let me go to the next topic of the purpose of all these teachings on cycles of Goddess Tara. The purposes are two. You may call it temporary purposes. Temporary purposes are to avoid what we call the 4 external fears, 8 external fears, and then the 8 internal fears, and so on. And then, in particular, for long run, the long run purposes are, distant purposes are the actualization of how these would lead us to actualize the common cities as well as uncommon cities, and also how this deals with a practitioner to accomplish or do the rituals concerning wrathful, peaceful accomplishments, and so on and so forth.
Jesu Dhamma de la La Shen le maybe Missy Chichi Kari Yore Sena, Songa Jide La Kandi China, Lerung Toya Dan Sandon Himba Che, on the Long Manga Mashipala, Shezia Dange Soya Tendigi, Luso Yomare. Inaya, Jesu Dhamma de, and on Shumagiba, Long Shumagiba, and then Sala de Mogiba, near the Shumagiba, mean Shibatam Gitine, Nido Sotoya, Pache Shatoyagi.
Now, what is the special or unique feature of the cycle of teachings and practice related to Goddess Tara is, in comparison to other forms of tantric teachings, in all other classes of tantric teachings and practice and so on, one has to, first of all, receive the initiation, then get into retreat, and then receive also transmissions and so on and so forth. There are so many requirements that are to be fulfilled before a practitioner really is permitted to engage in all those cycles of tantric teachings. However, with respect to Goddess Tara, Tara's tantric practices, there is no requirement for receiving an initiation, nor a requirement for receiving oral transmission, nor also a requirement to be in retreat, short or long, but just by merely pronouncing her name, uttering her name, a practitioner really actualizes, is said to be in a position to actualize the cities. No.
제가 저기 안에 메모 펴왔지. 참 해저 데모特게 온로명아 심어特게 간지지나야 제주 도메게 생활 동바다 제주 도메게 선대셔바다 타네 민서게 매바 치셔라야 바체 세토야다 내려 조퇴 치지 된데 야바 이산에 다 메모 펴왔지를 시에나 다 합을한 디게 강라 체요마레 제자 가드이랑 아주 과가 당주신의 하대야 야휴된데 차그레스
as compare now for an ordinary person, practitioner, who do not have the opportunity or who are not able to receive the initiation, nor the oral transmission, or are unable to go into retreat in order to do practices of Tantrayana, just by merely pronouncing her names, uttering her names, making supplications, and just by merely pronouncing her name and so on, this particular practice of Goddess Tara has the potential or capability to remove obstacles and enable a practitioner to achieve siddhis. That means for an ordinary person, amongst all the host of deities and practices related to many other deities, there is no goddess or deity comparable to Goddess Tara and her practices. One has the access to carry out practices even without initiation, retreat, and so on.
안에 생소나를 셰브 담바 지보 많이 봐 미문 파와 천체라 제주 도메게 바체 세조야다 지바체 조야게 로주도 좀 하장기 몽보레스 안가주 디세 튜티 있었는데 돼서 쇼도고 말레스 나랑이네 시에나 땅에 책깔라 계속 저만에 저 서반대삼에 가제 찌게 타줘나야 말로노 땐데 빠참마서 용거래 대 나랑이 뇽뇽톤에 시에 도비 있어.
Generally speaking, for those who aren't, who do not consider themselves to be superior practitioners and so on, other than them, but for an ordinary person, as an ordinary person, I don't think there isn't any god or deity or goddess or deity comparable to Tara, who has got tremendous ability to help us, assist us in removing obstacles and in preventing fears of all types. And there have been many supreme beings as well as ordinary beings who have practiced Taras, cycles of teachings and so on, that they have gained tremendous actualization, tremendous experiences that can be told in any numbers. But however, just taking the example of myself all alone, whenever I have any difficulties or I go through troubling times, I have by relying on the goddess Tara through my dreams and through others significant indications, I have seen that goddess Tara's boon or her support, her grace has always been very swift and very realistic and very supportive and helpful.
Tene tensengawa de ushake ten dibas ane domegi shuru tegi nolola tendo dodo da karshi yore sena ane yezu doma tombo shuju chidu tu kante chini chebare pada tome suda so kante chini sabare tamangamba zuba sang kante chini jebare ane dovegi tendo la shije onjakan zeba kante tengi yore jipa jia kante shogu yore chile dungi jo kante sogu yore ane zobi sonji sara kante chini gegi yore seya teso yezu domegi karso gore dene jedeno shejo tenda iden rabote teres.
Now, with regard to the fifth topic, fifth subtopic of my teaching, which is the summation or summary of all the practices or cycles of teachings related to Tara. Number one is how initially Tara inculcated the mind of enlightenment towards the mind of enlightenment. Secondly, how she actually accumulated merits for 3 countless eons, and finally how she actualized the state of Buddhahood, and then it also deals with how she executes her grace through her enlightened activities of peace, extensive activities through power, might, or and then through authority and so on, and also how she is capable of helping the devotees to protect them from 8 fears, and so on, and also how swift she grants her boon or grants the grace or enlightened activities to her devotees, and how they are able to actualize different forms of siddhis, and ultimately how these practices or reliance on Goddess Tara can ultimately lead one to the actualization of Buddhahood. So those are, in short, the purpose or the summation or of the summary of the Tara's cycle of teaching.
Tichana. Ta tene ta tensingi pa de 단계 강리 시합한테 로지 시동기 잠지도 팀보다 텐싱이 바데 안에 좀에 로징이지 시험데 깔아 안에 담보 현실주도 튀 간대진의 시합을 바드 좀에서도 초 간대진의 사버려 타망년 봐줘 상 간대진의 제버려 녀라 대쇼용 거 있어.
So now, with regard to the second main topic, the actual origin and history of goddess Tara. When I talk about this, it will deal with number one, initially how she generated or cultivated the mind of enlightenment, and in the middling stage, how she collected or accumulated merits, positive energy for three countless eons, and finally how she herself gained the state of Buddhahood or became a Buddha.
근데 담보 현실주도 튀 간대진의 시합을 때 안에 쇼는 시합 나지 전에 내내 야집에 로똥랑 추천 monbo 영해려야 이제 정카 향수 노외 생이지긴 고유지려야 대시 방아다지 생이지 정벌에 값디디게 안에 롬바티게 자비게 시모 이시 나와 생이지 정벌에 그래서 예스 점에 정치주도 튀 담보 생이디 시합이 가서 공견체라 이시 나와 시기 요아래 튀 시사데 대시 방아다지 정원들이
Now, as to the first one, that is how she initially generated or cultivated the mind of enlightenment. The history goes like this. In the past, way past, during countless thousands and hundreds and thousands of years, there was a city called multicolored illumination, or you can say multi-light city, Nasolnang. And then she herself was a daughter or princess of a king, and her name was Wisdom Moon Yeshitawa. And it was at the behest of the then Buddha called Ngata, drum sound Buddha. At the behest of this Buddha, she is said to have, at the very initial stage, cultivated the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta.
Then, Jiten de Tola, Zubu Soja Tonto Shura, Konzogi Shonju to the two Sheto, and Pomo Ishidawa Shonju to two Sheto, Mandai Cheva Yoris.
There is a difference between, in this world, hundreds and thousands of Buddhas are said to have descended, and then they have all cultivated mind of enlightenment, of course. But then this lady known at that time, Wisdom Moon, how she cultivated bodhicitta and the way the other Buddhas cultivated bodhicitta in this world, there's a lot of difference in there.
Pomo Ishidawa Shonju to Kandachin Shabarasena, and they pad Zubi Sanji Chundin de Yonzu, Shaba Pugi, number 2 Chene, Sanji Chanja Resha, near Chadangana Mahombalaya, Pime Tela Nambazova Sanjibing Zavatene, Pime Tela Sanjiji Yaba, Pime Tela Sanjing Zavatene, Rovet and the Judge Chimbo Digi Yabi number and Sag Chedanga. The
big difference here is so far all those Buddhas who have achieved Buddhahood and initially who have cultivated the mind of enlightenment were all male, were men. However, she is the only one who, for the first time, cultivated her mind of enlightenment on the basis of this woman's rebirth, on the basis of a woman's rebirth. And it is just because of her commitment and her sincere pledge and prayers that she committed herself to, that she promised to become a Buddha. On the basis of the a woman's rebirth, and that's how she committed, and then she really exemplifies that as a very exceptional case, being a woman who cultivated mind enlightenment and then became Buddha.
Then dancing about the catch a tremendous the two sons. The no so tambo de go to Sade and a Sanjay Tig Tony, Sanjay Ngade Tony go to each and Jabi Podan Nalo then it and sound the Javan knowledge thing in the gum and so the Karsogore, Sano Jachavas Abati, Kashet they say remove me by Sande Tade Chishari, Kashet Tome Tombi so the then it's over. Kashet Tome.
So that is how initially at the behest of Buddha, Drum Buddha, and being a princess from the royal house, and how she put herself devotedly at the behest of Buddha, Drum Buddha. Drum sound Buddha, and then she started doing her practices and retreats and all those, and then this is how she also collected the required heap of merits, and finally got enlightened as a Buddha in feminine body. So since we do not have a lot of time, I will try to keep them very short. No.
And I said to many big so the and this about to be tone and since la Savashingi Yonzule, Susha Zotoya, that did on Mateba Tonchel, Jamba Shet and Taja Jane and Kasha to many big so over this.
Now, as to how she accomplished the accumulation of merits for the Countess Eon in the middling stage, that is at the behest of putting herself, submitting herself at the behest of Buddha, and where she committed, she committed that she would be the one, she would relieve, she would work towards relieving all separate sentient beings from those who are in their harm's way, who put harm, who are there harming them. So in this way, she actualized her second or the middling stage of accumulation of merits for countless eons.
The next Thomas and big so there and Gero Tama may be get down Yamdu, and so just Sanja Tanchele and Karsagore, Ijimbi Wang Shi, the Jisu, Yapo maybe Wang Shi, and then Roy de Jachabonze, and Gero and Karsagore. Tama may be get Papa Shirizigi, number Chabanizonte, then Papa Shirizi Nando and the Karsagore, Yapo may be Tone, Karsagore, Javari Nagatune, Yapo may go Wang Shi Chene, that Tenen go to ne, Kashitomes and big towards over.
As to how she accomplished or fulfilled the accumulation of merits for the third time, that is the third stage at three countless eons, or three countless eons. There was, the story goes like this, along with the Vikshu Chimamebe, that is the stainless light, along with, practicing together with this Vikshu, she practiced practice. She engaged herself in the practices of Avalokiteshvara, the compassionate being, and the Buddhas of all the 10 directions. And from Buddhas of compassion, through them, she received the initiation of Buddha of Light, Bhakme, and then by receiving this initiation, she committed herself in engaging in the required practices and so on. Thus, along with this Vikshu, that's a stainless light, engaging herself in the practice of our Loketeshwara. They transformed into our Loketeshwara, both of them together receiving initiation of this, then transform themselves into our Loketeshwara through Amitabha, and then receiving the initiation of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, having received all of these, and then engage in practices and so on. And this is how finally she was able to accomplish the collection of merits of the third stage, that is for 3 countless eons.
Tangeba zoba sangye de tene kaba asunga seyagi sane tela shuji sangye tamche ge wangku ji jene tene jawa tangje chebi yum ane karsu gore jisu dome ngola ngeba zoba sangye bares.
Now, as to the final, how she became enlightened, she became fully awakened Buddha in a feminine form as goddess Tara. That is during an eon called Asanga, Asanga eon. At the behest of all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, she received initiation and went through all the stages of practice and so on, and then finally was able to become a Buddha, the mother of all gone beyond, mother of all Tathagatas, in the form of goddess Tara, the feminine Buddha goddess Tara.
Ta tene mala tene drome gi jidde condition shumbar drome gi ju de level do tigi long do jibanda wote condition shumbar ti ko shu is.
Next, I will talk about how the cycles of teachings of Tara came into being and was transmitted and so on.
Tene drome gi jidde tambo shusati ten tambo shusade ane ro Patalani shumbare, G Tambo Swing de, and Papa Shirezi sombare, G Suyagi Tice de, Zode Karikas sombare, Suyagi Judela, Jide Bachachi sombares.
Now, initially, the cycles of tantric teaching related to goddess Tara was taught at the holy place called Potala, the mountain, and it was taught by our Loketeshwara, and that was taught during a period called Dzogden, the fully accomplished period. And at that time, the cycle of teachings, authentic teachings concerning goddess Tara were said to be Bumdak Churwa, 100,000 cycles of teachings, 100,100. Yep.
Then Zodi Yene Karsogore so did you carry Tisela, then Butcher two Matal Hoya Marishanda, the Sun News Higher. Then you did carry Tisela, don't rot in Matal Hoya Marishanda News. Then it's the Cello Javek Tisa, then Domegi Judid Sholaga Tonta Cheese Liver, Temato, and no song race. Tati and Domegi Jidegi, Ferry and Ramasuna, Tambote race.
Now, during the 3 possession period, we call it Sumden 3 possession period, it is said that only 600,000 cycles of teachings of Buddha related to Tara remained. And during the 2nd possession period, Ninden, Alpa, only 12,000 volumes or cycles of teachings of Goddess Tara remains. But during the decadent age, during this decadent age, it is said that only 1,000 shloka or stanzas related to a cycle of tantric cycle of Goddess Tara has remained. So this is how initially the cycles of teachings related to Goddess Tara has originated and has come to being up to this stage.
Tane Dromegi Jugin Perinipade, Sanji Chondende, Gite de Shin Chene, and Sanji Chondende, Jesu Drome Judy Son Savig Gila, and the Java Shana Dojiki, Kaduna, 가드 논에 걸어 유사기 신고 빠따라라 덴지시 빠따라라 안에 자치모 다지 중바레스.
That was the first phase of the origin and transmission of the cycles of tantric teachings related to goddess. Now, with respect to the second phase of the transmission and development of tantric cycles of teaching related to Tara, it is said that Buddha Shakyamuni taught the tantric cycles of Tara teachings to Vajrapani, and Vajrapani is said to have done the collection of all of these. All of these in the holy place, Changluje Marwe.
장로제.
At Changluchen, at the place known as the heap of matted hair. No.
Tene peri sambade shana dojigi zambalila songa jidende peya gi chedo jabo onda bodi gi shewa shen chene ane songa jide yonzu yitu pache ane zambaligi la ane tela bi di shisetene hada neje dan sombo mombo gi te tele shi chene ane sato le ya tene ane sanje chondende gomba zonolo sajaya megi jesu ane nambegi 태바 침비 템바 다양 고추 태바 침비 게로 노로네 세sam바다 어메고 로베 침본데 몽보기 안에 라 예달레기 시지 안에 송아 제데테 손 통네 안에 다 송아데 잠벌레 다야기 곤지 토마체바레스.
Now the next phase of the transmission and development of the cycles of teachings related to Tara, goddess Tara, is from Vajrapani. The Vajrapani himself aroused in the manifestation of King Indrabodhi. King Indrabodhi is said to have compiled those, and having had a lot of visions and realizations and so on, he's said to have not only compiled them, then it is during his time that those were hidden and as well as revealed later on as in the form of a treasure teachings, host of treasure teachings. And then these treasure teachings are hidden and revealed by or through the blessings of the Buddha, King Indrabodhi and so on, came into existence after, say, 300 years after the passing away of Buddha Shakyamuni, and then those were then preserved, transmitted by a lot of great Indian masters and actualized masters, and who belonged to philosophically to Chitramatra School of Philosophy or to Madhyamika School of Philosophy, many of whom already also had received visions and dreams and actualizations related to Goddess Tara and Tara cycle of teaching and so on. And this is now the history of the faith in brief, how these teaching cycles became prevalent and popular, well known in this world.
Tene tedo nyamdola tene drome jide chipo mayimba ane shaji inandra hiji inandra nenjo ji inandra nenjo lame ka phaji maji la sobe songa jide teso jiten khandela tacha chembo shone teso nyamle chenge la 토모기 니드 라즈 르르 미메 공조라 소바다 토모 마연바 미시셰비 름바다 자셰 조비 름베 니드 통에데 지다 자도 동자 마연바 쳇동봉 때네 름베젠데 총네 때네 송하기 지데데 템바데 자첨보 쇼바테 도뇽도 도메 템바테요 뇽도 자첨보 쇼바레스 도미 지데데.
Then along with this development of and the passing of the transmission of cycles of tantric cycles of teaching related to Tara, these came to be known and classified into 4 classes of Tantra: Kriya, Charya, Yoga, and Anutantra Yoga. Tantra classes of teaching. And there were numerous numbers of practitioners who, because of the latencies or power of latencies or karmic latencies that they carry from their previous lifetimes. After having practices, and they have realized or actualized what we call the common siddhis, such as the common siddhis of the pills, common siddhis of staring at, common siddhis of walking, and so on and so forth, and as well as numerous uncommon siddhis, which entails such as, for example, actualization and having clairvoyance, and being able to perform a lot of enlightened activities in wrathful as well as peaceful manners and so on for the sake of the other sentient beings. So in this way, there have been hundreds and thousands of not only practitioners, but further development of cycles of teachings of Tantra related to goddess Tara. Those are also classified into into different forms of Tantras. Some of these belong to what we call the Father Tantra, Mother Tantra, and so on and so forth. So hence the development of cycles of teachings as well as practitioners of goddess Tara has significantly increased and has been on the higher side since then.
Tene ngazo zambali ge gangla jesu dome ge jidde ge pher tambo de chombares tene ta pher chembanya pade gobol dane gonju chebare tene te shilo tera tambo yamene ngo chune shilo tera chebe padre ta shilo tera chichebe ka ne ta ane zambali la dome ge pheri samban rabo chingo chubare te pendda nyama beba ne ngo chu chine ta
So this is how the tantric cycles of teachings and practices related to Goddess Tara developed and were transmitted and multiplied and so on. In this particular world, let's say that was the first phase of transmission or development of those cycles of teaching. And then now the second phases of development of teaching, cycles of Tara's tantric teachings, we may refer to the time of Nagarjuna, tentatively approximately 1st century period, all the way down to 10th century. And then that was during, you can say, we may say at that stage, the third phase of development of these cycles of teaching in this world came and was propagated particularly by Master Nyima Beba. This is Surya Gupta, maybe.
Ane chesa tene jetsu dome gi jidde gi pheri da songa jidde shanda gi pheri gi pasala mandra vi chi chembo chi yores.
Okay, there is a huge difference between how the tantric cycles of teachings, other tantric cycles of teachings got transmitted, developed, and passed on, and then the tantric cycles of teaching related to Goddess Tara has developed, been transmitted, and preserved. There's a huge one thing that makes it huge difference.
Tene songa jidde shanda gi yidang la tende kashe pente da rere ge kala chata rere ge kala pheji chembo ro taso chembo shon tene ta mara jimane rembe shindu no ne roya tende nyu mare mombore ina ya jitsu dome gi jidde da gi jibate ta tira rishon ne sonte rembe jindam phejin ro ma to je mara chile ya ta mara chile ma gon ro tende chong yo mare.
As to the other classes or the other cycles of teachings relate of the other cycles of other tantric classes of tantric, the history has a record that reveals that at certain point of time, with respect to certain individuals, individual practitioners, great panditas or great mahasiddhas, the particular practice of a tantra related to a particular cycle of a deity or deities have flourished, and then there was also a time when it has diminished, or may have also transmission may have really gone into a very insignificant stage of development and so on, could not be progressed. Whereas it is a very unique feature of the Tantric cycles of teachings and practices related to the Gadisthara that there has always been a steady trend of development, progression, and you can say unbreakable, unbroken transmission of the lineages of Tantra related to Gadisthara. So there has always been a progression. It has always remained as such.
ane jagagi loju gi nolola ane yedal har tenge gi mne gi tongba ga thone shena jasha moshi de drama yeda tenge chade gi yore di gi junse karare sana pente dan khapa chimbo yena nyudu nyushu drama chade gi yore mimung phewa ane chaul de mata gi wang jinu shimata ge inaya drama de su te jana te chochon de chocho yicha thle la ha chung wa yichane loji tholata yedam tenke noro jasha thomba moshu de sacha ge yore sena drama cha ge yore.
In the history of Buddhism in India, when we look into the history of the practitioners relying on meditational deities, the greatest percentage of them highest percentage of them have relied on Thara practice, the practice of Thara, and have accepted Thara as their main meditational deities, Idamgila. So because let someone be a great pandita or great scholar, master, or a great siddhi or a practitioner, so on, they have relied on Thara for specific purposes, for their achievement of goals and so on. And then as well as for common people as well, commoners have also relied on Gadisthara, for it was hard practices were so accessible. Without having to receive initiation, transmission, or having to resort to commitments of retreat and so on. Her practices were so accessible, so much so that the prayers can be easily recited, accessibly, can be recited anytime. She can be relied upon or sought for blessings and support anytime. So, and you can say that the highest percentage of reliance on a meditational deity is none other than the goddess Thara in the whole entire history of Indian Buddhism.
Tiche tene tiche tata sunde nga machela gegechi zindatangechi tiche tangzu tata zongechi de tringe chonzola panse de tiche tangzu nolo ne chadi zo yaya nolo ne chacho she tamasu de nga shagi tiche kechi chinel te shagi ane shete jima ne penema mantane shugi ane trin nombaso tiche rina kale khayungre ten sa shagi la.
So in my life, I've been so far. I've been an instructor. I've been a teacher. So I'm very particular with the time, the punctuality, and how to starting and ending of it. So whatever preparations that I have done, planned to teach or talk on today in this session, I must confess that I could not finish everything. However, due to time constraints, I'm going to stop here, and I would like to continue in our subsequent sessions. And then I hope you guys didn't have to go through a lot of trouble or difficulties in attending to this and so on. So I would like to stop here on time.
Oh, in Jambe, Bavi, Jada, Jamba, Da, Kundo, Sambo, Teyan, Tej, Teda, Kunji, Jisa, Dalash, Gawa, and Da, Jera, Doi, Moi, Tiso, Shoji, Jawa, Tonche, Lo in cho da ngang ba de da ge ge we za wa do go chang zong bo shi. Wai jo yi je zo la me ku ce ra de che na ga che le shu je je ba to lo zang ten be de me sa su. Jo yi ma se da de nen jo yi ji yi xie wa kun de yang da lam. Da me ji je pe la long xie ne sa da lang je yin de ra zong. Da jie chong ge kong po nian do yi shu yi me xiong se jie jia yue shi. 天这老瓦门别电报当大给老萨当兵特到南大门别能当这么一说。